Right now you've heard about the tragic case in Oxford High School. And Ethan Crumbley just murdering his classmates. And you know, there's a lot to be said here. There's a lot of angles to take. But the angle that you're not hearing is really the old normal versus the new normal. And nobody wants to look at it from that lens. You see, you have to ask yourself, the old normal was Columbine, Marjorie Stoneman High School, and schools all across America being shot up by, well, mostly insult, identifying young boys. That was the old normal. And then came COVID. And, well, it created even more anxiety, even more stress, even more paranoia, and everything else you can imagine. And, well, we realized that. And we locked down everything because nobody knew. And that meant the schools were locked down too. And you had virtual learning where people learned through Zoom classes and other modalities like online tutoring. Now, parents complain because they said their students struggled and virtual learning wasn't necessarily the best way to have socialization. But the students weren't making that complaint. It was the parents. Sure, there were plenty of students that struggled with virtual learning, but there were also plenty of students that excelled at virtual learning. Regardless of whether you support virtual learning or oppose it, one thing you didn't see in the school year or last year was a mass shooting. The school year is pretty much just starting, and already you have a mass shooting. We haven't even gotten into winter yet. We're just now having Omicron, which most scientists, doctors, and researchers are saying might be vaccine resistant. We have a population that's, well, very high in terms of people who haven't received the vaccine or have only partially vaccinated. There's many experts using predictive modeling stating that we could lose upwards of 2 million citizens between now and March of 2022. I think after this whole situation with Ian Crumbley, there should be strong consideration to go back to virtual learning and close the schools. There's too many parents who aren't vaccinated. There's too many students in high school and in middle school who aren't vaccinated. You know what this is going to lead to this winter. Tragedy after tragedy after calamity. It makes no sense to still, for the most part, be operating. You see, retail business and business in general is still operating like we're under a pandemic. If people are not willing to go to work because of the pandemic, and you have huge unemployment in restaurants, we're going to talk more about that. But you had a restaurant. I don't know where it was. I'm going to have to look it up, but it could have been Florida. The restaurateur had 32 people get hired, and none of them showed up. And the ones that did show up, if there were any that did show up out of that large group, they didn't show back up for the next shift. So you may have had like maybe 8 to 9 show up out of that 32 that were hired. Do you know what's happening to people who are working in fast food restaurants in this country? They can't show you the abuse that these individuals are taking. And we're acting like, well, the only thing that should be open in our society are schools. Then you wonder why you have misbehaving parents coming to school board meetings. What else do they have to do? It's like a circus in a zoo. No. You know, nobody liked the old norm. And then people complained about the new norm because it didn't work for everybody. But the whole situation was, everybody was still around. They weren't part of the unalive, so to speak. Now that we've opened back up the schools, and I can't speak as to what the COVID policies or restrictions were at that school, because every school is different. Are they testing for COVID on a regular basis, the faculty and the students? Are students socially distancing? Are students wearing masks? Are students by and large vaccinated? All of those factors, while you might not think they're important, are important, especially when Michigan is going through a wave of COVID, especially when America is still going through a wave of COVID. We're at 85,000 positive cases per day in America of COVID. You know, most countries don't have that many cases per day. We haven't even hit the official start of winter, and we're close to 100,000 cases per day of COVID. People are having breakthrough symptoms because maybe they're partially vaccinated, or they haven't received their booster. Look, Omicron is here in America. It's been detected in New York, multiple cases, California, Colorado, Minnesota, Hawaii. It's only a matter of time before it gets down south. And you know how bad it's going to be if it gets down south. We all do this winter. we're still handling Delta incorrectly. Can you imagine something like Omicron, which we know is more highly contagious in terms of spread than even Delta, and that probably is vaccine resistant? They should go to virtual learning or institute strong COVID-19 protocols and procedures. You can't act like this is still the same situation or circumstance prior to COVID, like COVID never happened. Regardless of how much people want to try to ignore it and say it didn't happen or it's non-existent, the year 2020 and coronavirus in December of 2019, perhaps maybe even September of 2019, happened. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. If you want to have school in-person classes, you have to have strong COVID-19 protocols and measures. You have to have a highly vaccinated faculty and staff and student body. Or else it's just not going to work. Winter. It's not even here yet. People are ignoring, acting like we don't have a pandemic. Just keep acting like it doesn't exist because you want to make it not exist. Yes, that's how we operate now.